And today I'm going to be talking about something which I think is kind of fun to reflect on quite a bit. And there's a lot of value baked into it, which is my journey in building a social media presence. And yeah, there's a lot to dive into here because, gosh, it's something I think about every single day. It's consumed a lot of my brain power over the last handful of years, and I've got a lot to talk about on this. So I want you to be able to walk away from this understanding what my path looked like in building an audience, and also have some things to take away if you would like to build a social media presence of your own and make it a positive thing, because there's a lot of negative out there. Before I get into talking about all this phone social media related stuff, I want to talk about something that I typically throw at the end of the podcast, but kind of put it up front here. So the no phone dinner is something that I am super passionate about. I'm encouraging everybody to do this every single day, where when you're eating dinner, your phone is not near you. You're with your friends, maybe with your family, maybe with just yourself, and all those things are great options, but put the phone away so you have the ability to exist in the present moment and take in what's around you. And maybe it's just the sound of the air conditioning, or you can just see out your window. These are things that are very important to pay attention to because most people kind of tweak when it comes to being in the present moment and just being able to stay present. So that's something I'm massively pushing. Now, along with this message, there's some pretty cool news that I'm throwing out here, because I'm starting a challenge, a monthly accountability challenge, this first month being based on the no phone dinner. And at the time that you might be listening to this podcast, the challenge will already be released through my Instagram, probably mention it on YouTube. I'm working with so many different timelines that I don't even know when you're going to hear the darn thing, but it will have already started. It is a 30-day accountability challenge of the no phone dinner. Every month I'll be coming out with a new challenge to implement. Now, firstly, the challenge is going to exist in the Promise app. This is where you'll be able to sign up for this challenge every month. I'm going to keep the no phone dinner one ongoing, and you'll be able to track your progress, see what other people are doing, and make a streak essentially of eating dinner every night without your phone. Incredible habit to implement into your daily life, because who doesn't want to become more able to exist in the present moment, more smart, more in tune with what they think and care about. Now, where this challenge is also going to exist is inside of my private community. Now, this community has been going on for over a year now. Essentially, we get together a network of people every single week. We have an hour-long roundtable group discussion about all kinds of interesting topics. It might be family dynamics, it might be social media, it might be mental health, all kinds of interesting things to emphasize critical thinking, because I don't think enough people have the opportunity to think and actually speak about the things they care about on a consistent basis. So if you want to join the challenge by itself, I will try to remember to put the link in the show notes or description of this video. I still have a couple things to organize, so if you don't see that in the show notes, definitely go over to my Instagram. I'll be sharing a bunch of information about that. And to apply to join the private community, the link for that is always in the description and show notes of the podcast, so you can check that out there. Now that that is out of the way, I want to dive into this whole conversation around social media. So I'm going to pull up my notes here and see what we got. So my come up, holy cow. The reason I started posting on social media in the first place is because I had been living the kind of lifestyle that I live right now for a long time. And I learned so much from being with myself every single day, essentially alone 99.9% of the time, in keeping these promises that I'm always posting about and talking about. And I felt that, especially at my age, I wasn't really seeing other people doing the same sort of things. I'd never really heard externally the lessons that I had learned for myself, and I felt so compelled to share those things, but it was honestly really frustrating because I didn't have a place for those ideas to go. I obviously did not have a platform, didn't have a bunch of followers, and I felt as if it would be a massive shame if all of these ideas that I think would enhance people's lives went unheard forever. So that kind of stressed me out. It worried me, and I always wanted to have the ability to share value with people. I think a lot of people kind of have this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be some hero complex sort of thing. It's more just, wow, I've learned so many incredible lessons. I want to share this with people. So I had this overwhelming feeling. Now, day one of sharing on social media was actually day 1,300 of running every single day. So 1,300 days in a row, no days missed. What is that? 4 years? I don't know. Not a mathematician here, but day 1,300. What drove me to make my first post was this idea that if I don't put the information out there, if I don't put the ideas out there into the world, what am I going to complain about? I'm seeing people make a living and have massive impact and influence by being full of shit. And I'm going, man, I wonder if I could have massive influence and great impact off of valuable ideas and just being an example of the kind of person I want to be. So I posted this video because I got to the point where I said, if I'm not willing to share the ideas, nobody is. Netflix is not going to come knock on my door and ask me to make a documentary about me. This is my responsibility. These are my ideas. It's my job to put them out there if I want them to be heard. So the 1,299 days leading up to day 1,300, genuinely, I consider that kind of the education period. Too many people go into this idea of posting on social media and they're immediately going to place themselves as an authority figure, even if they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And everyone is trying to be kind of a teacher. You can document yourself learning things and not knowing what the heck you're talking about as long as you're honest about that. If I had been documenting all the way up to that point, I probably would have had to express some of those things as well. But again, I was kind of silently living the way that I do and did up to that point and felt like I had a lot to share. So that's what propelled that first video. And I figured, look, if I'm out here every day running, doing the actual thing, being disciplined and keeping a promise, that's my whole life. Why could I not just tack on one more thing, which is talking about the ideas that are floating through my brain while I'm running? So that's what kind of created the daily morning mile videos, where I would write down my ideas. I would just sit and think and then share my thoughts on really any kind of subject while I was running. Now, you talk about putting a lot of effort and care into the work that you do. And I think most people kind of butt up against this, whether it's social media or, songwriting or arts or anything that you're creating. You put so much of who you are and what you care about into your work. And then when it goes unseen or unrecognized, that's a pain. That is a really tough thing. And so I would sit down every day and just craft the kind of message that I thought would genuinely help somebody change their perspective. I would sit down and think, what has somebody not already heard a million times? And I would, again, put so much heart into it, not to sound like a freaking Hallmark commercial, but I just cared so much about making these videos valuable and something that someone could genuinely walk away from and say, man, I learned something from this. And every single day, post the video, and then it quote unquote doesn't do well, right? 1,000 views or 2,000 views, and you do that for a couple hundred days, and then another couple hundred days, and then another couple hundred days, and you're going, whoa, are these ideas bad? Because in a lot of ways, if you're trying to get a lot of people to hear your ideas, and not that many people are hearing your ideas, it's not really that successful. And so I had so many moments where I'm going, why are my videos bad? Why are these messages not good? Are these not helpful? Am I bad at writing? Am I bad at speaking? What the heck is going on here? And I'm battling with this every single day because of the result. You know what I mean? Because of the numbers. But deep down, I'm going, what am I talking about? I know these are good. I know what I'm sharing here is valuable if people actually were to hear it. And so it was the value and the care that I put into it, essentially battling a platform. And I'm not trying to make it seem like this is a special case. This is literally everybody. And there are millions of other people that are way better than me at actually getting people's attention. But this is what I was up against. And it took, I think it was, let me see, I probably have it written down here. Yeah, the viral video. That was my, God, I want to say it was my 1,968th morning run, which means 668 days of posting, and I would post twice a day. So that was the video that went huge. That's where I'm saying I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't F around, I don't party. Am I lame for that? Absolutely. And to be lame in the eyes of somebody I'd never want to be like is nothing but an absolute success. That was the big jab right there, which I didn't actually mean for it to be much of a jab. It was more of a self-defense kind of statement, as in, oh, the way that I live, people think that I suck and I'm lame, but I don't want to be like the people that would think that. So again, it was a self-defense kind of thing, but I think it came off as throwing a big jab at anybody that does happen to do those things. So this video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. maybe worth a look. If you have, I would imagine that might be the case for most of you, since that's what my whole audience was kind of built on, was that video. It got 52 million views. Before posting that video, I had 7,000 followers on Instagram, and I saw 10K, I think, the next day, the next couple days. I think it might have taken a couple for it to start taking off. But I saw 10K on my followers, and I went, holy shit, I made it. And it was so crazy, because I always thought 10K was the epitome, of the audience. And I start to see the video go crazy. I'm talking just views and views and views. I'd never seen something like that before, and all these crazy comments. And by the next day, so I saw this 10K. By the next day, I had 50,000 followers. And by the next day after that, I had 100,000 followers. And then over the next few months after that, I think I got up to 300K or something like that. Now, if I pull up the analytics of that video, the amount of followers that I gained from the video itself, not just over the span of time that the video was kind of popping off, but Instagram tracks essentially how many followers you get when somebody sees your video and then goes and follows you. I believe it's 220,000 followers from that one video itself, which is absolutely crazy. So as this video is blowing up, I mean, I'm getting notifications like you wouldn't believe. And I was asleep one night in kind of this timeline that's kind of jumbled in my mind, honestly. And I hear my phone going zzz, 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 zzz. And usually when I have an alarm or something, it's got kind of the vibration behind it that makes it kind of obnoxious. And I'm thinking it's that, but I wake up and I think I see my clock. I'm going, why? It's definitely not 5 a.m. It's definitely the middle of the night. And I go over to my phone and I realize that it's Instagram notifications coming in. It woke me up, and I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, but this thing was going nuts. And I look at it, and I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. And this video, it has 40,000 comments on it. 40,000 people throwing their opinion of me at me. And I want to say it's 50-50, you're the best versus I hate you. It was genuinely that polarizing, which I suppose that's the recipe for a video to blow up, which is a little bit unfortunate, but super polarizing. I mean, I'd be getting in the ice bath in the morning, swinging my leg over the thing to get in, and 3 notifications come through on my phone while I'm putting my leg over. It says, "You suck. You're a piece of shit. This guy must be great at parties." It was crazy. And so that was my cue to shut off my Instagram notifications for sure. That was pretty clear. But it was just unbelievable, the amount of hate that came from that. But even more than that, the amount of love. Obviously, it reached enough people that were pissed off at me to find the people that really, really resonated with what I was talking about and what I was saying. And yeah, it was the wildest experience ever, and obviously changed the trajectory of my life pretty distinctly. So it was wild. Now, I spent all of these years up to this point trying to share all of my ideas in short form, Instagram and TikTok. And I've talked about this so many times, but the reason I love just recording this podcast and talking to you guys in this format is because I can actually explain what I'm thinking. I can sit here and, look at the floor and try and find the idea I'm looking for in my brain, or gotta look up here and search around for it, and actually take the time talking through things instead of bastardizing every single idea that I'm trying to put out there. I wish I started this podcast years ago when the freaking video was blowing up and actually have those ideas out there. But I am not good at creating short form content, straight up. I'm just not. And I'm getting better at it because I'm realizing that people are on Instagram for a certain reason, and it's really not to just digest nuance. If we're being completely honest here, that's just not what people are on short form platforms for. It's to feel comfort, to kind of get the little dopamine rush, to scroll along and just have a lighthearted experience in most cases. I know this definitely depends on whose feed we're talking about, but yeah, I don't think people are on those platforms to just listen to really detailed and difficult to digest ideas. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but I've concluded, I need to provide less value. I need to try and be less valuable on short form platforms. And that's going to allow me to reach more people and hopefully have more and more people hear these kinds of, I was going to say conversations, but more so monologues here of just me being able to explain the nuance behind things. So yeah, I'm a pretty shitty short form creator. I'm not saying that to fish for compliments. Whenever I say that, people say, man, I love your videos. I think it's great. I love the videos too, and I absolutely appreciate the hell out of hearing anything like that. I'm just speaking more in the sense of building a platform. I didn't gain a bunch of followers from just consistent growth. I had one video that just blew the freaking roof off, and then that kind of gained the following, which can lead to a bunch of different things. So there's a lot to that. But to speak on how to be successful, literally, I'm saying this in all genuine truth. Take what I say in this as a grain of salt, because nobody has the same path. You hear all these people making videos about how to be successful on Instagram, how to get views, how to do the right hook, how to do this, how to do that. Everyone is full of shit because everyone is just speaking on confirmation bias. I could say anything right now and you'd go, oh, well, this must be true because I have 460,000 followers on Instagram. But it doesn't mean shit. That's just what worked for me. So, this goes for nearly everything, but especially with this social media conversation, it's up to your path. It took me years to have one video do well. Meanwhile, I know people that their first handful just crushed it. And I'm going, what the hell is that? And meanwhile, before I found any success in it, I'm seeing that happen time and time again with other people. And I'm thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? So don't let one person's opinion of how to do social media, how to do this, how to do that perfectly affect what you actually want to put out there, if that's something that you're wanting to pursue. So success in social media, first to define that, I would say it's not in the views, likes, shares, comments, etc., because you can get metrics out the frickin' ass by doing horrible things. Think of what goes crazy on social media. things where people are arguing, hateful stuff, outrageous stuff, kind of the rage bait thing. And there's an aspect of, if you're going to share ideas that are going to make people uncomfortable and want to change, there's some of that. But, for the most part, a lot of views and again, successful, quote unquote, successful metrics can come from super disingenuous content. If the success in the numbers was actual success, then why do people that just do whatever the heck to inflate those things become absolutely miserable? Selling your soul just to have better numbers on your Instagram page is a very, very stupid pursuit. So in my eyes, the numbers only mean something if I got to those numbers in a way that is settling and fulfilling to me. So you can shortcut anything. I mean, you can just show your ass or whatever, which is what 90% of the people who pop off on social media actually do. And then you're going to find that your soul has been sold, and you go, oh, damn, I feel like a piece of shit. I have all these great numbers, but why do I feel empty inside? Yeah, no kidding. That's kind of what happens. So, I might sound kind of mean in saying these things, but it's very true. And I say it in this kind of way because putting yourself out there in some way that affects who you are deep down, that's a dangerous game to play. So seriously, stay true in who you are, be genuine. I'll continue pushing this message forever because no number is worth your soul. Promise you that. So I've got so much stuff written down here because when I was planning to talk about this, my mind is just flying like crazy. But authenticity, right? This is kind of my whole message here. Authenticity has to be the priority, because again, the success in the numbers only means something if you got there in a way that actually matters. And this is the case with everything you're trying to achieve outside of the social media conversation. The way you get to an outcome is much more important than the outcome itself. If you want to make a bunch of money, go rob a bank. Why not? Oh, because that's wrong. That's why not. All right, making a bunch of money in itself is not the valuable thing. How did you make a bunch of money? Did you start an incredibly impactful business that changes lives? That's a very different outcome of having a bunch of money than robbing a bank. So the way you get somewhere matters a ton. So here's kind of a practical takeaway as well. Match the content you create to the platform you're putting it on. So like I said, I spent years trying to put long form ideas on a short form platform. Not smart. Literally not smart. I can look back in my own approach and say that was not the intelligent move. Now, would I change anything? I mean, I feel like that's always a weird question because I love where I am. I'm so grateful for the opportunities I have. I'm so grateful for the people that are in my life and all the situations that have happened to bring me to where I am. So would I change anything? I don't like to mess with the past and hypothetical thinking, but, practically speaking, I might have started the podcast earlier. I might have started the YouTube channel earlier because those platforms actually match the way that I think. I think in long form. I don't think in 20-second sound bites. So again, match the content you're creating to the platform. So if you're going to make Instagram and TikTok content, you gotta know what to put on those things. And again, I'm shitty at this. so I can point it out. Can I put it into practice super well? Not all the time, because if I have an idea that I'm compelled to share and I know that it's not really fit to the platform, I probably still do it, and then I just try and make it work, and then I go, damn, I'm really not good at this, and then dig myself into that hole. But I can also see that, hey, you got to kind of work with what you're actually working with, which is these platforms. So what can you do to get started? This, I think, is where a lot of people get kind of stuck, because starting something is obviously the hardest part. Once you're in the groove, once you're posting a video every day, you're kind of just working. But the resistance on the front end of kind of the emotional experience, what are people going to think of me, all that kind of stuff, that's what makes that starting process really, really stressful. So what can you do? Record yourself talking. I would say there's there's so many different ways that you can put out content. You can make edits. You can do anything. I would just so highly suggest to get good at talking. Just do the talking head videos, hold your freaking phone like this and, I want to talk about journaling. If you wrote your ideas down every single day, you might be more familiar with them, and then you post it, and then maybe a bunch of people love it, maybe a bunch of people say that you're an idiot. All those things are going to happen if you gain a following and gain some traction and views on your videos. So just being comfortable with looking at the freaking camera, kind of a big tool there. So I would say talking. The communication aspect, just being an effective communicator, knowing how to articulate what you actually think. God, it's such a big deal, and this is going to serve you on social media, of course, because the real challenge is to get people to understand who you are. How do you translate your personality to other people through this wall of Instagram or TikTok or whatever? And it's going to serve you so heavily outside of social media too. Look, over the past years, I've spent every day of my life articulating what I think and who I am. That's my job. You know what I mean? I'm looking at a camera right now, holding a microphone, seeing the little waveform of my GarageBand thing go by, and I'm talking about what I think. I'm talking about my experiences. I'm talking about the value that I want to bring, and I've done this again for years. And so to practice that, take social media away. I know how to look someone in the eyes and say, hey, here's what I'm about. Here's what I care about. This is the kind of person that I am. These are my values. This is what drives me to wake up in the morning. That is a freaking massive part of the toolkit. You know what I mean? To be able to take the internal mind podcast and actually put it to words and put it to real life, that is a different story. I had that kind of, I guess, sticking point in my own brain when I was growing up. Because I go, man, I feel like my conversations with myself are great. I'm having this whole damn TED Talk going on. And then when I try and explain it to somebody else, I feel like I just go fully misunderstood. And it all comes down to how well can you communicate. It's never going to be perfect. I mean, I always can watch something back of mine and go, oh, why didn't I say that? Oh, why did I say that filler word? Oh, why didn't I make that joke there? Even recording these podcasts, hopefully this doesn't ruin your viewing experience if you're watching, but I find that when I'm thinking, I kind of look down. I don't know, it's just my form of looking for the words, looking for the ideas. Sometimes I look up. I do that less likely, but it's kind of hard to just stare down the barrel of a friggin' camera lens, and I feel like that kind of relates to when you're talking to somebody. You don't just want to stare them in the eyes. But it's never perfect, but this is what speaking is about. There's an art to it, right? So the creativity behind that is a really cool thing. Again, practically speaking, do short form and long form. If you're going to start, I'm begging you to make short form and long form content. I'm sitting here as a person that has built a massive audience, and I do social media for a living, and I wish that I had done the long form content sooner. So don't put it off because Instagram and TikTok is easier. It's kind of lower stakes. You can just throw it out there. I mean, shoot, maybe for a couple months do that, but get on the YouTube videos. And if you're making the most simple freaking content, I don't care what you're doing, make a 5 to 10 minute video out of the same exact thing. So, hey guys, here's my recipe for a healthy blah, blah, blah. And that's a 30-second video on Instagram. We'll do the 5 to 10 minute long version on YouTube. Who cares? You know what I mean? It cannot be a detriment. And long term, you're going to be so glad that you did that. Long form wise, if you're doing YouTube, another just kind of tidbit here. Thumbnail and title are honestly more important than the video itself. That's something I'm trying to refine my process on, to really understand the psychology behind what the hell is going to make someone stop when they're scrolling on YouTube and click my video. Look, you can have the best video in the world, and if nobody clicks on it, nobody sees it. You know what I mean? You can write the best book in the world, and if you have a shitty title and cover page, well, no one's going to be able to read the book. So the presentation, the packaging actually matters a lot. And it kind of sucks because you make an awesome video and then it gets 6 views and you go, damn, what the heck? Hey, but those 6 people, they matter quite a bit. So do long and short form. Don't box yourself in. So another lesson of mine. I went all of this time, I don't want to say depriving the world because that sounds a little bit arrogant, but I'll say it because I can't think of a better term. Depriving the world of my full personality, kind of the full scope of who I am, which plenty of people dislike. Again, to kind of contrast my deprivation comment there. But look, I was showing the serious side of me. I was showing the genuine thought, and it's very real, but that's more of how I think at 5 a.m. when I'm waking up and I got to go do the ice bath, and it's very solemn and quiet, and I'm intimidated, by the day ahead of me. But that's not all of me. I would say more consistently than that, I'm sarcastic, I'm joking around, I'm singing, I'm whistling, I'm just saying crazy jokes. That is more of who I am. I love, I'll do the flips off the table. I want to do the wheelies. I want to always be up to something cool, learning tricks, doing whatever. And I wasn't really posting any of that stuff, which is kind of a shame because I think one of my biggest focuses in sharing who I am and how I live is to actually show the multi-dimensional aspect of who I am, which, I take things very, very seriously, that I want seriousness to be applied to. And I also have a personality and I joke around and I'm a real human being, whereas I feel like most people with really good character and personality and they're all loud and abrupt and they're people, those people typically treat themselves like shit, which does not make sense to me. And then the people who are very, very serious about the way that they live and their lifestyle and eating the right foods and exercising every day, usually they're very intense and kind of they don't have that craziness or the funniness or the sarcasm, and that's kind of a shame too, because you can't really relate to those kind of people. And I think I was boxing myself in to seem like one of those, but in reality, I'm a lot more funny and all those kinds of things, which I hope comes through a little bit more in kind of the long form content, the YouTube, podcast, all that. But don't box yourself in for the sake of consistency. I wanted to be able to post every single day, and that's just what I built patterns was kind of the serious stuff. Right? So I was posting every single day. I had a process where I would sit down after my run and I would write down my ideas and kind of formulate this whole thing. And you're supposed to post every single day. But if you're just more and more boxing yourself in by doing that, maybe it would be more valuable to skip a day of posting so you can kind of gather your thoughts and put out a different kind of content. Or if you talk about funny stuff, maybe throw in a little serious thing here and there. Maybe if you're making serious edits all the time, maybe you just make something where it's just you talking to your phone and kind of show people different parts of you. Because if you're only showing one and you're boxing yourself in and you're making yourself very single-minded and you're trying to stay in one lane, you're just doing yourself a massive disservice, not just social media wise, but as a person. So that's a huge lesson that I've learned as well. Now here's something that kind of relates to the same message. My intent is to make an impact. You know what I mean? Genuinely, I want to be a household name because I think it's a shame that the household names today are kind of just horrible influences. So I want to have massive impact, and I think a lot of people feel very similarly, but I want to be an example of something. And with this impact, I want to bring value, and this direct value. This has always been my form of literal content creation is let me just put out valuable stuff every single day, and eventually people are going to catch on. Eventually people did catch on, but the ultra serious stuff is the hardest to digest. And it's the hardest stuff to build an audience based on, because it's going to require someone to really sit down and be intentional. And I would consider this kind of the bottom of funnel content. And you hate to think of stuff as a funnel, but genuinely, if you have some things to share and you want the most amount of people to see it, how can you cast the widest net that can then eventually come down and see that valuable stuff? So I was only doing quote unquote bottom of funnel content forever, just talking about serious concepts every day. There was no entertainment factor. I would throw some stuff in here and there, but for the most part, no entertainment. There's nothing outside of the message. And I spent so much time obsessing over saying the perfect thing that I completely neglected, again, sharing that personality that I think is so important, because who cares about a statement or a quote if they don't know who it came from? Who it came from is way more important than the thing itself, because then you can actually understand why it's an important quote or statement to even consider. And so you can't, what am I trying to say here? I mean, you can't just do one thing over and over and over again and stay one-dimensional. Because again, it's not going to serve you well on social media. It's not going to serve you well as a person. And so this idea of the bottom of funnel content, I mean, that's the true core of what you want people to see and what you want people to hear. But, think of a relationship. Do you just meet someone and go, hey, do you want to get married? No, I mean, you casually meet them and you see what their personality is like. Oh, maybe you kind of jive and you spend more time together, and then eventually you build this relationship and it goes on for years and years, and then you get married. You know what I mean? So I kind of just came up with this analogy on the spot, I guess, but it kind of is like that. You're not just going to capture someone's attention and willingness to follow you based on just the purest form of, hey, here's the most serious, hard to digest form of me. There's got to be something that kind of casts a wider net. And hey, maybe a lot of people could consider this. And then when I post something more serious, a smaller, more intentional group is going to focus on that and care about it. So I could talk about this all day. And how long have I been going? Because it feels like I have been doing it all day. Dang, 40 minutes. Shoot. Look at that. 40 minutes of just chatting right down the barrel of the camera with the ever so frequent look down to find all my thoughts. So to end off the podcast here, a few things per usual. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button. That would be so great. You can go ahead and like the video if you like the video. If you hated it, I think there is a thumbs down. So go ahead and dislike if you did not like this. And if you liked, loved, disliked, or hated the pod, throw a comment in there. I love to hear from you guys. Hopefully most of them are positive, because I genuinely am trying to provide as much value as possible and have everyone walk away from listening to these going, okay, I have something to consider at the very least, and hopefully you learned something. If you're listening/watching on Spotify, you can give the show 5 stars. I would appreciate the heck out of that. And you can also comment on Spotify, so I'd love to hear from you there. If you would like to hear any of my thoughts and ideas that run through my wee brain here, you can also subscribe to my newsletter. I send out 2 every week, and it's just my thoughts. Very similar to how I share on here, but it's in text/word form instead of my voice. That way you can screenshot and share with people, maybe make it your screensaver if I say something that's worth remembering, all those great things. So the link to subscribe to that will be in the description and show notes of the episode. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you are interested in joining the challenge for the No Phone Dinner or joining my private community that will also include a kind of more intentional form of that same challenge, you can check out my Instagram to find the link for the isolated challenge, and the link to apply to the private community will be in the description and show notes. And just as a typical reminder, when you're eating dinner tonight, there will be no phone in the picture. And if you're already eating dinner and you're listening to this, okay, I'll let it slide this once. But tomorrow when you eat dinner, or if you're fasting when you're pretending to eat dinner, you should take your phone out of the picture, sit there in the present moment, think, let your mind run, take some deep breaths, do what you need to do, but that will enhance your life like you wouldn't believe. I think that's all I've got. Must be the end of the podcast. If you've made it to this point, I appreciate the heck out of you. I really do. This is so fun to sit here and just talk through all these ideas. And again, I hope every single one of you can walk away from this saying, man, I learned something. I have some new ideas to consider. And yeah, again, let me know if that's the case. It would make my day. I hope you have an incredible rest of yours, and I'll see you in the next episode. See you guys.